We like to use kind of a funnel system where we'll use gifted campaigns or less expensive collaborations to almost, test the waters with influencers, in the sense that, will their audience really find this, we like them, we think they're a great fit, they're on brand, love the style of their content, and the last part of that equation is, will their audience resonate? Mm-hmm. And, we like to take multiple smaller bets up front and then start to double down as you understand what really resonates.
Welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. The e-commerce podcast is all about helping you deliver e-commerce wow. And to help us do just that, today I am chatting with my guest Vinod from creator.co about influencer marketing. Yes, I am. And this is not the first time we've talked about influencer marketing. No, but it is the first time we have talked about it on the e-commerce podcast with the legend that is Vinod. Oh yes. Now you can find our entire podcast archive for free on our website at ecommercepodcast.net if you want to check out other episodes. Plus, if you sign up to our newsletter, whilst you're there on the website, all of the show notes, all of the links, everything comes to your inbox automatically for free with no drama. So make sure you signed up to that. Now, are you struggling to grow your e-commerce business? Do you feel like you're constantly spinning your wheels, trying to figure out what to focus on next? Well, let me tell you, we have been there. I have been there especially, and I know how frustrating it can be. That's why we did Cohort. Oh yes, the e-commerce cohort, which is the proud sponsor of this show. Now, e-commerce cohort helps e-commerce businesses like yours deliver an exceptional customer experience that drives results. And to help you get started, there is a free resource called E-commerce Cycles. It's a mini course which walks you through our proven framework for building a successful e-commerce business. I'm going to show you the specific steps I take in my own e-com companies so that you can see exactly how to put these concepts into practice in your own website. Oh yes, and the good news, it's free. You don't even need an email address. Now you can just go watch it at ecommercecycles.com. That's all one word, ecommercecycles.com. Now, before we get into it, it's probably worth saying that Vinod and I met at Sub Summit, so big shout out to Sub Summit. If you haven't done so already, check it out, subsummit.com, and if you're not going in 2024, you probably should. And we'll probably talk about that. Now, Vinod is the founder and CEO of creator.co, which is an insane domain name, Vinod, I'm not going to lie. A globally recognized influencer marketing platform that pushes the boundaries on how creators and brands collaborate, grow, and earn. He serves on the advisory board of the Influencer Academy and as a business mentor for League of Innovators, which just sounds very superhero-y, doesn't it? Vinod, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you on. How are we doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you bringing me on.
Oh, no, it's great. Now, it is fair to say, Bud, that we met in the Speakers Lounge at Sub Summit. It's the very posh Speakers Lounge, don't you know? Yeah, it's lovely.
Very posh.
It was very posh. We just had a great time. We just chatted. We chatted for a while, didn't we? We just kept going and going and going, it felt like. Did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy what was going on there?
The show was great. Yeah, it was a great mix of a lot of entrepreneurial minded subscription box owners and those who are running the ops for companies like that. But yeah, I found it very, very fascinating to get a little bit more in depth on that space, particularly, and how subscription boxes work and how they're a little bit different from your standard e-commerce company or CPG brand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I learned a lot, actually. I learned a ton from some of the speakers there at the conference, which was great. We've got some of them coming on the show, which is awesome. But yeah, I learned a lot. So great time at Sub Summit. And the speakers lounge was nice, actually. Yeah, nice sodas in there. It's awesome. Easy. So tell us about Creator Co. What you guys do.
Yeah, Creator, when you peel everything back at the end of the day, we just make collaborating with brands and creators easier for the two parties. So sort of like a marketplace that's run by some pretty intuitive software that essentially makes it easier for the brands to find the influencers they want and manage collaborations to the finish line. For creators, it gives essentially a marketplace of opportunities for them where they can find and sift through different opportunities that might appeal to them and then apply to join any and all that they're interested in and that they qualify for.
So how did you get started in that? Is that something you sort of went into by accident, or was it more by design?
Starting a business seemed like a good idea at the time. I mean, prior to this, I was one of the buyers at Best Buy, responsible for launching actually a lot of the wearables that you might be familiar with today. So I had launching brands like Fitbit, the Apple iWatch, the Garmin Forerunner, Samsung Gear, and a number of other products as well through dash cams and some cameras as well. Wearables is really where I really kind of cut my teeth on the influencer space. And what we learned was just how difficult it really is to scale influencer campaigns.
Yeah.
For everything from finding the influencers to, managing them. Sometimes it's a little like herding cats when you get to a big enough campaign. And that's just because, they're people and they have schedules, and this isn't programmatic advertising. So we like to think we eliminate the pain points of what is becoming more and more realized as a necessary marketing cog in your wheel.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, and you're quite right to say that right at the start. We've talked about influence marketing on an e-commerce podcast before because it is such a big part of our marketing strategy now, right? And I was reading somewhere, I can't remember who said it. I was reading somewhere the comment that every customer is a micro-influencer in a lot of ways because they're telling somebody, usually something about your brand. So what are, I guess, you talked about how your software eliminates some of the pain points that people have. So what are some of those pain points that we experience with influencer marketing? Not necessarily what your software sells, but what are some of the common things that we're going to come against when we're doing influencer marketing?
I think there's a few pain points that most brands are experiencing, and we'll speak from, because creators also have their pain points as well. So for the purpose of this answer, I'll stick to the brands for now. But brands, I mean, first and foremost, it's really trying to understand or create a strategy that complements the overall marketing strategy and or a specific goal you're looking to accomplish using influencers. And that could be anywhere from more UGC, more content for your product or your brand, to, building an ambassador program or affiliate program that contributes revenue to your top line. And, you start to build a little bit of community around the brand. I think, understanding your strategy first is something where brands, it's not like SEO where the goal is to be more prominent on the web and web searches. There's a pretty good focus there and a lot of different ways to tackle it. With influencer marketing, I think brands kind of go in maybe with misaligned expectations and tailoring that can really help identify where to look for ROAS and where to identify ROI and how to move things along, because there is an inevitable pivot, iterate process. Strategy would be one. Finding the influencers, I think, is a very common pain point for brands that are more savvy in the space and understand the strategies that they need to create. I think finding influencers is probably their number one pain point. Yeah. We have a database of over 200 million creators with industry-leading data, so it makes it really easy. But I think finding the creators, being able to recruit them at scale, vet them, understand data points that go beyond the surface metrics and vanity metrics. That number two, managing creators. So, it's not something that's easily done in Excel. And although it's possible, because I know brands and individuals who are doing it, I think once you get to a certain size of campaign being, anything over 10 to 15 influencers is going to be more and more difficult to manage without something a little bit more focused on that pain point. Yeah. So managing creators, and that would include paying them. So, there's contract issues, PayPal, global payments, all sorts of friction in that area as well. And, Creator makes that a little bit smoother and does it all kind of in one platform. So I think strategy being one, finding the influencers, managing and paying them. And then number four, the big one, which most brands usually start with, is what is ROAS? Like, how do you evaluate ROI?
Yeah.
And that kind of links back to the first question as well. What is the strategy that we're driving,
Yeah.
and and what are the milestones we want to hit, or what are the KPIs that we want to impact?
What do people typically want to do? What's the typical thing that people aim for with their influencer campaign?
Most brands understand that it's, paid ads performance is not doing so hot, and with Google depreciating cookies next year, it's going to get worse. So brands that we work with are typically looking to find influencers to create more content for them, drive that organic awareness, build that trust, and really poke through the noise, understanding that very rarely are brands in a siloed space. There's usually a lot of competition, especially in the CPG space. How do you break through that noise? And community is the number one moat, I would say, and probably the biggest and most underrated contribution that an influencer marketing campaign can bring. Building community. We know that Coke and Pepsi are nothing more than cola, but it's the community that they've built around them. Makes them billion-dollar brands. And same with Nike. It's not just a running shoe. It's the community, right? It's those things that separate brands from the pack, and that should inspire a lot of founders and challenger brands, because it's definitely possible. It's just done differently now, and you want to go where your customers' attention are, and I believe that that's on social media today.
One of the things, talking about community, Vinod, that you said that when we met up at Sub Summit, it was in my notes here, and I thought it was a really interesting phrase. You said, there are parts of community that people ignore. They see influencers transactional rather than nurture them as community, which is always better. What did you mean by that, as we're talking a little bit about community here? It just reminded me, and I thought this is going to be a really interesting thing to dive into. So let's dig into that. So
yeah, because can you repeat that for me? There was a bit of that.
So there are parts of the community that people ignore. So they see influence as transactional rather than nurture them as community, which is always better.
Yeah. So a lot of, programmatic advertising is transactional, and a lot of marketers have been groomed to operate in that, you give me, I give you, or, I put money in and I get some impression count or reach or engagements. And that's fine for programmatic advertising, ads, banner ads, potentially even a little bit of, PR as well. But with influencers, because there's a real human there, nurturing the relationship and actually inviting that individual to be part of your brand versus just someone who's going to create content and post about it and forget about you, that can make a huge difference in the way influencers respond to your brand and the way they think about your brand after the collaboration has transpired. So putting a focus on really treating these individuals like they're fans, right? Like they're fans, like they want to contribute, making them feel like they're a part of the brand is gonna really impact the overall reach and impact of the campaign itself. Just given the human nature of relationships and partnerships in general. We've all been in partnerships where we probably feel it's lopsided or not as valued as maybe some other people or the partnership in general. And I think for influencers, it's no different. Being able to, feeling valued, feeling heard, those are all things that just like a team, really, just like an extension of your own team, you wouldn't shun ideas. Ideally, if you're a good leader, you're looking for ideas everywhere within your company. And I think that's becoming more and more apparent with influencer marketing. You have fantastic brands like Lego that, they build community around their brand and use it as a feeding source for new ideas and innovation. As well as a lot of other Fortune 500s are understanding the power of that and cultivating that community around their brand to use as a sounding board, to use as a PR amplifier, to use as a way to get, you know, boots on the ground without officially having boots on the ground.
Yeah, that's powerful stuff. I really like the when you said it, I thought this is a really interesting comment in the sense that I think you're right. Many of us that have done influencer marketing have just seen it as another transactional channel. Like, okay, I need my return on investment here. This is what I want you to do. Go and do it. If I like what you do, I'll give you money. If I don't, we're going to have an argument, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And this concept, this idea of actually that's what everybody does. Why don't you be a little bit different and build community? And in that sense, you build that loyalty, don't you? You build that sense of a tribe with
Loyalty.
people that. Sorry, go on. Just broke up
No,
a little
no,
bit.
yeah, no, you're totally right. Yeah, the loyalty, the fandom, yeah, that can carry you a long way, and that is what differentiates you at the end of the day. It's those group of people that are unwavering and, you know, live and breathe your
Yeah.
brand values.
Yeah, totally. So you said, again, from my notes, Vinod, just referring back to our conversation in Dallas, find the right influencers, invite them to try the product and personalize it, invite them to be part of something bigger, and get their feedback. Seemed to be the sort of the strategy in a very simple nutshell. I appreciate this is probably slightly more nuanced than that, but this was sort of all part of that. It all sort of tied in that actually don't see influencer marketing as just another transactional outcome. Build a tribe with these people. Yes, you are paying them, but it's this kind of, it's the way I think about it, it's the old school way we used to run companies years ago. You know, well, I'm paying you, you will do what I tell you. That doesn't go
Yeah,
well now, does it?
it doesn't work today. Yeah, and that's it. I think, you know, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely a simplified version, but I think at the end of the day, taking that approach, and I'll speak for more challenger brands that are maybe introducing products into market or have recently introduced products in market. You know, I'm totally aware of both sides and and what you know, a slim budget looks like. So you don't need to spend a ton of money, but
Mm,
you do need to invest the time and the thinking and the thought process on what this community looks like, who we're going to bring into them. You know, and gifting products for smaller influencers is totally fine. There is a win-win where the brand
yeah,
is going to some cool content and trusted exposure, assuming the influencer likes the brand and the product, and
yeah,
the influencer gets to flex their creative muscle, gets to earn a little bit of clout showcasing a new brand that maybe other people haven't heard of yet. So there's a good, you know, there's a good symbiotic relationship there, and if you can nurture that and grow, and you can grow together, well, as the brand gets more exposure and grows and camaraderie, then that influencer gets to grow their own clout because they're seen as being partnered with that brand, and
yeah,
vice versa. That influencer grows and grows their following and earns more trust, and then that brand is also piggybacking off that. So that's kind of what I'm, you know, trying to show is there is a symbiotic relationship, and the more influencers you can bring into your community and nurture, the impact of those relationships is really exponential.
So, just going back to one of the things you said, then I guess one of the first questions in my head is if I'm looking to do influencer marketing, well, maybe I'm already involved in influencer marketing, Vinod, and I'm looking
Yeah.
to looking to grow the amount of influencers we have. How do I know what a good number is? Should I have 10 influencers working with me? Should I have 3,000? Is it more budget driven? I mean, how do I know whether I'm on the right track?
You know, there it's that's almost like saying, how do I know I'm painting a good picture? And so there isn't, you know, it's a little subjective. There isn't a defined answer for that. I would say, you know, by virtue of reach and impressions, the more that you have, the more, you know, reach you'll have, the more content you'll have. So
Hmm.
there's advantage in the volume for sure. Um, but the 80-20 rule applies to this too, where you'll see that, you know, it is 20% of your influencers that end up driving 80% of the results.
Yeah.
What I would, you know, we like to use kind of a funnel system where we'll use gifted campaigns or less expensive collaborations to see, to almost, test the waters with influencers in the sense that, will their audience really find this, we like them, we think they're a great fit, they're on brand, love the style of their content, and the last part of that equation is, will their audience resonate? Mm-hmm. And, we like to take multiple smaller bets up front and then start to double down as you understand what really resonates. Is it a style of content? Okay. Is it a certain, caption, hashtag, CTA that's getting the reach or click through that you're looking for? Let's double down there. Or is it, no, it's the audience, and we found an audience. So now we need to go find influencers that speak to a similar audience, and you take that path. So there's three different reasons that we observe that make a successful campaign. One is the content itself, which could include the visuals, the video, captions, hashtags, CTAs. The other is the influencer themselves, right?
Yeah.
And, how they speak to a brand, how people resonate with them. And then third is the audience of the influencers. And yes, the latter two are definitely correlated, but there is a distinction between the two. You can have different influencers who speak to a similar audience.
Yeah, that's very true, and that's very, very helpful. So one of the things, again, we talked about in Subsummit was scaling with your top 20-30% of influence. So you do a lot of smaller bets. You're figuring stuff out, what's working, what's the audience, what content's working, what influencers are working, what audiences are working. You start to figure that out, and then you scale that, don't you? You sort of push those. You push those sort of areas as far as you can take them, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised where these results come from. We're working with $1 billion brand right now in the beauty space, and their best performing influencer, who is driving sales, has 3,500 followers. So
how does that even work?
I think they're just trusted individuals. I think they, those followers that they've cultivated really, really believe what they're saying.
That's really impressive. Yeah. So that's an important point, because it's not about the size of the Instagram followers, is it, on the account? There's a whole lot more to it than that. But is that $1 billion brand who's using that influence, just 3,500 followers, is he or she, I'm not going to presume I know what gender, but do they promote just to their 3,500 followers, or is that brand then using the content that they create because it's so good in like their ads, and is that why there's a massive scale in performance?
So short answer is yes and no. So they are selling more organically. So we have this set up running through an affiliate integration, so we can track all the organic sales from the influencer, and they are leading the pack. There is no promotional spend coming from this brand. There is no amplification, so it is 100% organic. Does the brand at the same time also has the rights to do as they wish with that content, turn it into an ad, put it on their social, emails, newsletters, etc. We don't have visibility into that. So I'm just talking about what we're connected into. So it's coming purely organic. So you can't always tell, you can't always correlate size to performance.
That's really interesting.
As most males would agree.
Let's talk about that on a different podcast. I dare say we'll have quite a size.
After-hour show.
Yeah. I love that. So let's talk about maybe then some of the companies that are listening. Let's start with a startup, right? So I'm starting out, I'm selling a product online. Should I think about influencer marketing straight away? Is it something that I need a certain budget for? And so think about later, should I do Facebook first and then influencer marketing? I appreciate there's no straightforward answer to this, Vinod, but I'm just going to throw that out there and let you have your opinion.
Yeah, and we've had a chance to learn, truthfully, the hard way through this. If you're launching a new brand, what we would say from an influencer marketing space is, the budget that you need does not need to be astronomical, but it definitely should, you should prepare to instigate a fair transaction. By that I mean, typically one of the fair, the most common approach would be to align the size of their following and engagement with what we're offering them, whether it's a combination of cash and product or just product. So, for example, an influencer with 10,000 followers is typically getting paid $150 to $200 a post. So, if we're going to target those influencers and ask them to collaborate, make sure we're sending that influencer at least enough product that covers that retail value. Before you get started, our team at Creator Co will always look at a brand's website, a brand's social media. The truth is, and in my opinion, most marketers and full serve agencies are probably doing the same and hopefully giving the same advice. But when you start spending on marketing, whether that's influencers or programmatic or PR or whatever, you want to give yourself the best chance of success. And what I mean by that is, the ad creative can be phenomenal. It can be targeting the perfect audience. You can be getting fantastic click through. But if that ad leads to a website that's subpar or has no reviews or has no UGC, user generated content, and people can't see other people using it, it's going to sacrifice conversion rate significantly, probably by half, if it's not optimized. And that's the same with influencer marketing. If you think of the path to purchase with an influencer, they post on social media. The first thing a consumer does is they go to the Instagram or the TikTok of that said brand. And then from there to the website, and to the website to convert, unless their Instagram is shoppable, in which case that's being more and more adopted. But when you think of the path to purchase, it's not just influencer buy right here and away you go. You are going to the brand to discover more, especially if you're on that, let's call it $29.99 price point. I would say sub 29 is impulse, and you have a better chance of that quick in the moment purchase. But over $30, especially in today's economy, I think customers are, great. They're getting exposed to the brand through an ad or an influencer, but they're not, if you're not set up to complete that path to purchase and to have a strong landing page, then I think you're wasting dollars. So for brands, I would say make sure your website is in order, make sure your social media is at least groomed well. It doesn't have to have hundreds of photos, but it does need to show you're off to a good start. And then start with gifted campaigns and roll slowly. There's not, what we've found is you lose leverage if that's your first influencer campaign. And what I mean by that is the influencer knows they are the value in the equation here, and they hold all the leverage. Versus if an influencer sees that you collaborated with, 10 or 15 other influencers, they're more likely to know that, to have faith that you know what you're doing, you've worked with other influencers, they're not risking as much with their name associated with it, knowing that other influencers are collaborating with them as well. So, making sure your social media, your website, is appealing to the audience, and that will also help you attract more influencers at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's great. Just explain what you mean by gifted campaigns for those that might not know.
Yeah, gifted. So product in exchange for posts or content.
Okay,
so
so
purely
it's as simple as that.
No monetary, no fiat exchange. Just gifts. I'll give you a swag bundle or our new shoes, our new chocolate bars, a whole bundle. In exchange, we'd love for you to talk about it with your audience if you like it.
And that's a good place to start, isn't it, with the gifted campaigns? Because there are plenty of influencers out there that are also trying to get started on the influencer journey, aren't they? And that kind of thing works quite well. And going back again to the symbiotic relationship.
Totally.
And they'll help you grow. You help them grow, and together you'll hopefully figure something out. Exactly. What sort of so we've got to start. If I'm starting up, I can understand that. I can try that, and I can allocate some kind of budget towards influencer marketing. Realistically, what do I need to be thinking about? Even with gifted campaigns, I still need to be thinking about some kind of value, don't I, to that?
Yeah. So there's a few ways that you can do it. One, obviously everybody loves cash, so that would be, the first and foremost. I think the other way is also bringing them in to become an ambassador for you. So if they really align with your values, and I always use that before I say this, before I would recommend anyone bringing them in to, your brand family. But if they align with your values, inviting them to be part of an ambassador program where they can now have a piece of what they're driving for you, that's another way that you can compensate them. And it's on performance. So for the brand, you understand that you have a CPA anyways. Does it make sense to give a little bit more to an influencer who can not only drive conversion, but you'll be getting content? There's a trust factor. There's a whole other slew of benefits that come with an influencer versus just an ad. So yeah, cash, gifts, exclusive events. Influencers love to be able to experience things that us normal folk can't or don't have access to.
Sure.
So yeah, exclusive events, cash, gifts, ambassador programs, those are probably the most common ways to reward your influencers. And then making them feel valued in ways that, they might not be used to with other brands. If brands are just giving them cash and product, well, how do you make them feel special? Even inviting them to, a founder's webinar to understand, what the direction of the company is getting. Do they want to come to a share, if it's a larger company and there's a lot of shareholders, inviting the influencers to participate in those larger meetings or those town halls, and really making them feel, embracing them, making them feel part of the brand, is a way you can give them kind of that extrinsic value, I guess.
It's a great idea. So when you talk about doing events, we don't necessarily need to go and rent a hotel in New York and bring everybody over. You're actually just a founders webinar is a good idea. You can do this.
Webinar, how it started. Asking for their feedback, asking for their opinion. If there's one thing I've learned over the years is how to get someone to lean in on something is ask their opinion. People, influencers included, will really lean in and tell you what they think. And if you're truly listening, you can probably pick up a way to nurture that relationship for the long run.
Yeah, no, fair play. What sort of products work well with influencer marketing? In one hand, I've seen influencer marketing work well for clothing or supplement brands, but can you get influencer marketing to work well for, I don't know, a couch? Do you know what I mean? It's what do you see there?
Yeah, IKEA does a ton of influencer marketing. A lot of furniture companies, with that type of so the brands that perform well with influencer marketing are definitely in the CPG space. We do really well with health and wellness, food and beverage, fashion. Pets is a big emerging category. You don't need to necessarily pay the pets, so there's a big advantage there. Yeah, pets. Beauty is another one. Lots of beauty brands emerging that have fantastic products, and they're trending in the direction consumers want to go in terms of B Corp certified or PETA certified, cruelty free and all organic, that stuff. So brands like that do really, really well on social media. I think demonstrable, I guess. So the more demonstrable they are, typically they do well with influencer content. There are tons of brands like Article and IKEA. That Article's a furniture store, and there's another example out of Europe that does furniture restoration. Pardon me, I can't remember the name, but there was a big case study where they had a 387% ROAS by having influencers talk about it's basically a secondary marketplace for refurbished furniture, and that campaign, I think, generated over $1 million, and it was a gifted campaign. But what they found was the influencers, were truly aligned with that thrifting lifestyle, and they were, they were passionate about it. They were, they were really on board with that movement, and it worked great. What I would say is it's probably difficult to scale a campaign with couches, understanding the logistics involved to getting somebody a couch or the prices involved, and the pricing is one thing because you can find larger influencers to warrant, who have the reach to warrant that gift. But the logistics, so it's probably a little bit slower and a little bit more difficult to do. But I would, where I would, for a brand like that, that's probably also getting a lot of their awareness and click through through different articles, through PR publications, and probably some paid ads as well. Leveraging the influencer for their organic content, or working with the influencer for their organic content, is one thing, but then leveraging that content through the different funnels in marketing, that's where you can really start to take advantage of the ROI, because typically you'll find that that influencer's content will drive better click through, will drive better engagement, and ultimately better conversion. So it's the effect of that content being used multiple times, and how consumers, when, you know, if they relate or if they know who that influencer is, that automatically kind of drops a bit of that trust barrier that's inherently there.
Yeah. One of the things that, as you're talking, one of the things that I'm thinking, Vinod, is a little known fact. I mean, I have talked about this on EP before, but one of the things that I like to do, in fact, I was doing this very thing this morning. I was in my wood workshop.
Nice.
And I just love to do wood. I just love to make furniture. Usually out of scrap wood, but sometimes out of really nice, expensive wood. And I'm thinking about a lot of the tools that I own, or have purchased recently. I've purchased because I have seen somebody use them on a video which tells me how to do what I want to do, right? So it's not just people that I follow on Instagram going, hey, buy this, you know, because it's a really cool tool. What works really well is to see that in context. Do you see what I mean? And so I go on and get inspired by the projects and think, oh, that tool's going to help me do that particular type of joinery or whatever. Therefore, I will go and find a way to buy that. And that is a combination where there is some kind of instruction or some kind of inspirational content, some kind of how-to around it. Like with beauty products, like how to do this particular style of makeup. And here's the one that do you know what I mean? Have you found that when you mix things like that, I know this is getting a bit granular now, isn't it? But do you find that mixing things like with the how-to and the product creates a much better outcome than just showing the product? Or is it just woodworkers are a bit weird?
No, I think the how-to always performs, I won't say always, but typically performs better, especially mid to lower funnel. I think there's a place for that awareness play, right? Because if they don't, you know, they might not even know they're interested until that awareness play exists. But I think the how-to is proof in the pudding. So yeah, the how-to content, you know, especially when you're working with things that are of utility, like tools, you know, one could argue even makeup fits in that category as well. That, yeah, anytime you can show the how-to, that's going to be a lot more powerful. And if brands, you know, typically an influencer will ask for a little bit more, knowing that the video might be longer, need to be more polished and things like that. But yeah, definitely performs better when you can do a how-to or a tutorial. And it comes off a little bit more organic, I would say, from a consumer facing. An example would be from like a cooking brand, like, oh my God, I'm drawing all the blanks on the big case studies that I usually have at the tip of my tongue. But big cooking brand would give kitchenware, you know, pots, pans, kitchen utensils, cooking utensils to chefs. Well, you know, the feature of the chef's content is always the food, like the recipe, the food, you know, baking, you know, all of that stuff. But they're building that fabulous finished product or meal using the tools from this. So they're doing those subtle drops of, you know, hey, I'm a chef, I make fantastic food, and this is the brand that I trust in my kitchen when I'm cooking.
Yeah, Hexclad have done that with Gordon Ramsay, haven't they? The sort of pans that Gordon Ramsay use. And he just says, oh, these pans are brilliant. And then you'll see him cooking the most amazing food. And you think, well, to cook that, if I get those pans, I can cook that, not realizing. Because what you're not buying with the pans is his 30, 40 years experience. You're just not. It's just not. It's not coming with them. I'm sorry. You're still going to be a crap cook, even though you've got the best pans in the world, right? But I get what you mean. And I think that that's interesting, isn't it? Because your product becomes slightly more background, but there's a definite association with something there. which again is, it's all, is it on Netflix now, the whole Air Jordan thing, with Nike and that kind of thing. So that kind of story, isn't it, really? And again, I assume in influencer marketing that has its place. And there are different levels, I guess, of like you say, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Where do you think the industry is going? But where do you think influencer marketing's, because it seems to have come of an age in the sense that it seems a lot more established. We kind of know the rules a lot better. There's companies like yourself now, which have, great companies in the middle of this, making the whole thing a lot easier, adding a little bit of sensibility to what was, a free for all at one point. But where do you see it all going?
I would sum it up like this. I think that creators are more and more becoming their own storefronts. And I think companies like Amazon are realizing it, which is why they've set up specific influencer storefronts on their platform. But the way I see it is, with the depreciation of ads, with the emergence of D2C, we already know we're significantly behind in live shopping compared to Asia. All of the trends that we're seeing in Asia, if they hold to be true over here, and I think it's just a matter of time, I think that influencers will eventually start to own the D2C space. And I feel like people will be looking at certain influencers as almost storefronts.
Yeah.
What are the products that they use, they recommend, they stand behind, they're vetted products. There's a trust factor there. The influencer's entertaining for a number of other reasons, potentially. And it's just more dynamic of a brand, of a way to shop, and probably a little bit more personalized, in the sense that, buying online from a brand is one thing, and it can make you feel some sort of way. But when you're buying from an influencer who's connected to the brand, who's used the product, who, might be compared, you might roll into an influencer's storefront and they might have, Bose, Beats, Sony, and some other headphone brand that they all recommend, and they're different price points, but for different reasons. There's a huge trust factor in that, right? And guess what? If you're the customer that's spending 200 plus on headphones, then, you're not really worried about two or three of the other reviews there. You're going to like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. There's an assortment of products that they recommend, and that's the one, that's closest to the budget I'm looking for, or the quality that I'm looking for. So buy that one. Every time you buy from, like, the brands are never going to say our product's okay compared to those guys. They're, you know what I mean? The brand is never going to say anything bad about themselves, or necessarily even questionable about themselves. Whereas an influencer, hopefully they're honest and forthcoming, and that instills a level of trust, because I think consumers know that no product is going to be necessarily perfect.
No, fair. Yeah, really good. Really interesting stuff. Vinod, listen, I'm aware of time. I'm aware that people have been probably enjoying what you're saying. So if they do want to find out more about Creator Co, more about you, want to connect, what's the best way to do that?
Visit us, www.creator.co. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Vinod Varma, or shoot me an email, vinod@creator.co.
Creator.co. How did you get that domain, by the way? Was that something you stumbled across, or was that an intentional, I had to go and mortgage my right kidney and buy it kind of a purchase?
A little bit of a right kidney purchase. We thought it was exactly what we needed, and made the move to buy it. And luckily we have some fantastic advisors on our board who actually knew the individuals who are brokering the domain, and probably got a favorable deal. So a little lucky.
Good. We will, of course, link to all of those links in our show notes, which will be available on the website, or if you sign up to the email, they're going to be winging their way to you as always. But Vinod, listen, great to catch up again, man. Great to talk about this topic. Super inspiring stuff, and just love it. Love what you guys are doing at Creator Co. And let's do it again soon, my friend.
Let's definitely do it again. I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate you very much.
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. What a great conversation. Huge thanks again to Vinod for joining me today. Also, a big shout out to today's show sponsor, the e-commerce cohort. Remember to check out the free training at ecommercecycles.com. Also, be sure to follow the e-commerce podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, because we've got yet more great conversations lined up. And I don't want you to miss any of them, not a jot nor a tittle. As we like to say. And in case, by the way, no one has told you yet today, you are awesome, dear listener. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear. Vinod has to bear it. I've got to bear it. And you have got to bear it as well. Now, the e-commerce podcast is produced by Orion Media. You can find our entire archive of episodes on your favorite podcast app. The team that makes this show possible is Sadaf Bainon, Estella Robin, and Tanya Hertzlack. Our theme song was written by Josh Edmondson. And as I mentioned, if you would like to read the transcript or show notes, head over to the website ecommercepodcast.net. That's ecommercepodcast.net, where, like I say, you can sign up for the newsletter. But that's it from me. That's it from Vinod. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Matt. See ya.